So what this is really a paper about how institutions allow us to produce collective intelligence. But the real focus here is going to be on sort of how there's this interplay between the institutions we have and our civic capacity. Now, civic capacity is a word that we're just kind of like using to capture a whole bunch of stuff, which is kind of like culture. But Jeff Mulligan, who's also an editor of the Journal of Collective Intelligence, he has a wonderful new piece where he calls this dark matter. And so he thinks about this, like, so if your center is trying to think about, okay, let's construct this institution, this mechanism to produce collective intelligence, you're putting it in this kind of like petri dish of a culture. And there's this dark matter, which is social networks, trust relationships, friendships, cognitive capacity. And that dark matter is going to play a huge role in the success of your institution. Here's sort of something, the big idea. It used to be, or mainly still is, when we think about what institution are we going to choose, we focus on the allocation. Is it efficient and fair? So in the United States, big debates about should we have government provided healthcare? Should we have a cap and trade on carbon? Should we price carbon? Those discussions are entirely focused on what is the allocation? Is it efficient? We want to argue that in addition to getting those allocations, there's civic capacity effects. So now let's suppose we have this thing we have to allocate. It could be carbon, it could be could be we have a traffic problem, could be, we're trying to decide how we allocate offices in our organization. And we're sitting around, we're saying, we could have a market for this. We could have a hierarchy. We could vote on this. We could just let it self-organize. How do we choose between them? So our model is going to be really simple. We're just going to say, let's just draw from a distribution randomly in any one situation. There's just a potential value. So this is the best it could possibly be between 0 and 1. So in this case, if we had the civic capacity to operate a market would give us 0.8. We might not have the civic capacity, but if we did, we could get 0.8. The best self-organization could do in this case is 0.2. So in this case, this particular problem is kind of poised to be better, just the nature of the problem, a market would work better. So we're proceeding from a position that any given instance of a decision that's got to be made, an allocation that's got to be done, there's some coordination. Some of these institutions may be slightly better at doing that than others, or a lot better at doing that than others. So for example, if we're thinking about like people buying clothes, how do we allocate clothes? A market's probably going to look a lot better than a hierarchy. Like I don't want a committee deciding what sweater I'm wearing in the morning. It just doesn't make any sense because the information's embedded in the person. So in this case, you think, let's just choose the market. So now when I look across an organization, when I look across the society, I can sort of say, oh, look, here they've got a market, here they've got a hierarchy, here they've got a democracy, here they're self-organized. So you can think of all of these things as being kind of like trying to, pull back the curtains so you can see a bit of the dark matter, right? Or to sort of just put, I think, more structure on Englehart's notion of kind of like 2 dimensions of culture. You want to sort of say, let's, break out the microscope and really look at what the dark matter is.